Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of In the Dark. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we're picking up immediately where the last episode left off. Murphy's wondering over, I'm like, Jess, oh my god, like, what are you doing here? What's going on? Like, is this just Josiah front? And it's like, no, this is just a regular pet store. She's like, what? Like, Murphy can't process. She's like, no, what are you talking about? It's like, I work here. It's like, and just Murphy being like, are you kidding me? Because I've said it before. Murphy can be a dickwad. She can be a major douchebag, but I'm like 100% Murphy. So like I kind of side with her. I was even saying it last episode. Like, you're kind of a dick for doing what you did, Jess. Like up and disappearing, faking your own death. Even her justification being like, I understand because like her and Murphy have been in this toxic relationship for so long. You know, it's just like this cycle of like, right, she keeps enabling Murphy's bad behavior over and over again. And it's lasted this long because she's always been, as she says later on, her comfort blanket. So, you know, she had talked to Darnell about it, where it's just kind of like, right, like I'm tired of all of this. You know, it's like she almost died. If it wasn't for like what Anna like breaking her out, she would be dead right now. So it's like, if it wasn't for her, so you know, it puts things in perspective. It's like all that you got mixed up in, you killed someone and you almost died. It puts life in perspective, especially because you're like at the heart of it all. It's Murphy, you know? And even, you know, Darnell, it's like, you know, he understands. He wishes he could get out of this because she's like, how did you do it? He's like, I didn't. I'm still a part of this life. I maybe never will. And what Darnell said, like, start racing over and over in her head. Like, you know, what had she knew what happened up to that point. She knew that Murphy had made a deal with the cops, so she was scared. Either, you know, she was almost, she was afraid that, oh, Josiah found out she was still alive, Josiah would come after her. Granted, Josiah's got so much on his table right now that, you know, the cartel's coming after him, so he can never come back. So that's finished. But also, it's like going to prison, which you don't want to go to prison either because Sam's going to be gutting you. So that's, I mean, granted, she's not thinking about that angle of things, but it's still like, yeah, like regardless, you'll be spending the rest of your life in prison. So you can understand why Jess felt like she had no other choice but to disappear. She even said like, you know what? I figured if I disappeared, I faked my death, that you would give up, which I was like, immediately, I had to scream out, are you crazy? Because it's like, you say you know Murphy, but it's like, obviously you didn't think this through. Murphy is the one person who would never give up. Are you forgetting the whole Ty situation where all this started was with her being unable to give up on what happened to Ty, finding out the truth of it. So what made you think you'd be any different? Like, you know, Ty was like one of her best friends and she, you know, she knew him for a while and he was one of her best friends. She's known you most of her life. You're one of the few people she knew before she lost her sight. Like, you're one of the last faces she remembers, and you think she wouldn't go. But in her mind, it's like, I figured Felix would convince you, because she's like, yeah, you listen to whatever he says anyway. And it was like, oh, and I was like, that actually kind of sets up some really interesting developments to know that to some extent. But, you know, it's like, it's her going back and forth about like, no, just like what we have, like our friendship and everything, it's toxic. I just want to have my life. It's like, it is the thing of like, you know, she's like, you don't know what I've been through. And then you have Murphy being like, you don't, what? Even I'm like, yeah, you know half the story. You don't know half the other stuff that Murphy's going through just to find you. Even she says it herself, it's like, I lost everyone. I burned bridges with every friend. I literally have no one left in my attempt to find you. Like, everyone's left me. Like, don't be another person in bed, because if you leave me, I literally have no one. But, and to be fair, everyone that she's always kind of pushed everyone away. And that's like, she said what she said to Felix, that led to that led to Leslie being like, you know, like all this terrible stuff that's happened. I don't want my brother mixed up in it. I don't want another girl taking advantage of him and like kind of ruining his life in the process. So it's just, it's the after effect of just like time after time after time of just like, this has all been like heading to this boiling point for a very long time coming. And it just finally like popped, you know. So I just think it's fat. Like I said, I still feel for Murphy. Like, I'm still Team Murphy, but at the same time, I gotta recognize, like, right, Murphy is kind of a shitty person. She's been that way time and like, she has a capacity to be a good person. It's just like what it is that's inside of her that's so broken that like she manipulates and kind of tugs on people to be around her. Like like, it's just, it seems like it's hard for her to almost just kind of not be that way with people. And it's just like, once again, Jess kind of festered that even more just by being her, yes woman in certain regards, of always just being there, being her comforter, like enabling it all. So like it's only gotten worse as time's going on. Like maybe if Jess had potentially nipped it in the bud, because even like Murphy's like, if you don't want to go to Canada, I would have let. She's like, no, you never would have let me go. Hell, like when she's like, let's go. No, I'm not leaving without here, Jess. Let's go. I was like, ooh. But then Jess goes in the bathroom. She's like punching because it's like, no, I'm not. I've worked so hard to get away. Like, this is my fresh start. This is my opportunity. And so she comes out and it's like, no, I'm not going to. It's like, because Murphy's like, I can change. She's like, no, Murphy. I've talked to you time and time again. We've had this conversation and you haven't changed. You can't change. The fact is that at the end of the day, like, you ruin so many people's lives around you. And that's a hard pill to swallow, a hard thing to hear. And it's just kind of like, because it makes Murphy kind of finally look at everything in retrospect. I think it does make her look at like, right, all the damage I have caused, like getting people mixed up and everything. Like, yeah, this is on me. Like, yes, I had the best of intentions, but I've dragged not only myself, everyone I care about down the road. I mean, because even her mom, like, your mom might have quote unquote like betrayed you or abandoned you by trying to turn you over to the cops, but she was trying to make sure that you live. Granted, sending you to prison was actually pretty much sentencing you to your death sentence. So that's a whole thing. But, especially with the Sam thing, which we'll obviously talk about later, but it is this thing of just like, man. And obviously she's having to explain to Redford, like, no, just a few more minutes. He's like, this isn't part of the deal. It's like, fine, just a few more minutes. So at the same time, we have Darnell and Sarah. They're kind of repairing what they have relationship-wise. But she's just like, right, help me find Murphy. And it's like, because it's like, he's like, I'm sorry for what happened, because it's like, right, you got found out about, you let Murphy go, that, and everything. So he's like, I'm sorry about that. She's like, do you know where Murphy is? Like, that's the only way to kind of make this right. Which he's like, I honestly don't. And it's like, and Murphy's not as bad as you think. And she's like, why do you keep defending? Because like, I think Darnell will always be indebted to her because she found out the truth about what happened. I mean, if it wasn't for Murphy, we wouldn't have, like, Dean wouldn't have been found out for who and what he was. The chief wouldn't have been found out for what he was. I mean, because also, I think Darnell knows the truth, but maybe he doesn't, about who actually shot Nia. Because I actually don't remember who knows. I want to say Sam actually knows, because if I remember correctly, she was trying to kill Jess last season because she knows Jess is the one. So I think Darnell knows it's actually Jess. But he's still keeping up the pretenses because I guess he knows like Murphy would never want to sell Jess out. So it's like he doesn't want to do the same either. But it's like for him, it's like, right, like the only reason why we're here in the first place is because I'm the one that introduced Murphy to Nia. I mean, not Nia, but Josiah. So it's like, right, you don't have to be responsible. Like, kind of like Sarah being like, she has to be responsible for her own actions. Like, she's already kind of destroyed enough lives. And I think it's just like, I think Darnell in his mind also probably thinking like, this is the best option. I'd rather things kind of end this way than kind of going super sideways. But it's also like, I think he feels indebted to her for like, all that. Yeah, there's been bumps and roads, there's been ups and downs, and yeah, his life has gotten complicated too because of Murphy. But I think it is from the space of he knows where this all started. It started with her trying to get retribution for his cousin Ty, you know? So I think at the end of the day, that will kind of supersede anything else. But he ultimately calls up Murphy. Obviously, Sarah goes and brings this up to Josh and Jean, and it's like, right, she's back on the team as they go take down Murphy. And so Murphy ends up kind of making the more mature choice that you never would have thought she would have made. Like, I think it has shown that like this conversation has like, it took her hitting kind of rock bottom in this moment for her to be like, oh, okay. Right. Are you happy? She's like, I don't know if I am. I'm not necessarily happy, but I think I could get there soon. And at the end of the day for Murphy, it's like, she just wants Jess to be happy. And it's like, you know, because it is a thing of like, because Jess kept pointing out like, right, at the end of the day, you've made this all about you. Like, even to me in your head and stuff like that, like everything has been like, yes, I can understand what you've gone through, but everything has always been to set, like, you want me back so I can be that person in your life that comforts you and enables you. Like, it's not about me. Like, you never take time to look at things from my perspective. You never took time to really empathize, like, kind of like understand my feelings and what I'm going through. like I said, it's a hard conversation that's been a very, 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 very long time coming. But I think it did finally hit Murphy after everything. I think it kind of put things in perspective finally for her, like, you know, because her and Jess have never had this honest of a conversation, because it's always been bubbling beneath the surface. Like, Jess has called her out, but I think in this moment it's just kind of the lowest low, and knowing like, my friend faked your death just to get away from me, and am I the cause of that? Am I the cause of like pain? Like, I'm sure it makes her reflect on all the relationships in her life and just all the people that, you know, she feels like abandoned her. It's just kind of like, right, that, like, even just being like, that's not normal, like, you ruined the lives of so many people and stuff like that. But like I said, I think for the first time it's like, right, I'm just gonna try and not be selfish. I think she had given up on getting Jess to come with her. Obviously, Redford comes inside to use the bathroom, and it's like, yeah, we're almost done. I think at that point she had already solidified her mind, like, right, I'll leave you alone. But then things get complicated when the cops come. Sadly, Redford assumes like Murphy called the cops on, and she's like, no, they're here for me. I swear this isn't about you. He's like, I promised you if the cops got involved, I would kill you. I'm a man of my word. And luckily, I was like, is Jess gonna say? If it's like, Jess most likely doesn't have a gun on her. I'm sure she's not too keen on pulling the trigger again, because well, they don't know Jess or Murphy is there. Luckily, the only person they saw was Redford with the gun, so Sarah puts him down. So Jess is there to comfort Murphy, but Murphy's like, go, they're after me, they're still under the impression I'm the one that killed Neil. She's like, no, I can't leave you now. It's like, no, I need you to. I need you to go out and live your life. Like, I've kind of like taken enough from you. Like, this is your opportunity to live your life. Just go out and live it, you know? Just let me do this. Like, trying to be non-selfish for the first time. It's like, right, trying to put you first rather than herself first, you know? And she's like, I do love you, Murphy. She's like, I love you too. And obviously, she turns herself in. And you could tell Jean, and more so than anyone, Josh is happy. And it's like, oh, is that Sarah? Yeah, Jennifer Walker, she's still alive. She was in that Redford dude's basement. Now, that's what's also interesting, too. Because my point, something I was curious about, too, is if this whole thing hadn't gone down the way she wanted to, if her and Jess would have actually gotten to like Canada or whatever, would she have actually called the cops and told them about Redford? Would she have said anything? Or like, when this was all said and done, like, would she have just gone to Canada, and the moment, like, it's like, right, I'm the only one going, Jess is staying here, and she would have gone? I mean, I think for her, it's like, if she had called the cops afterwards, he would have come after Jess anyway, or her, like, you know, so that's why I'm like, I don't know how that, like, I think this was the better option. I mean, at least he's dead, so there's no, like, point of retaliation against Jess or Murphy in that regard. But I am legitimately curious, like, if they didn't have this conversation, like, trying to do the right thing, you know, because, like, she left Jenny in that, like, terrible situation because it was like, right, you're getting something out of it, your self-centeredness of, like, you're ruining, like, were you really gonna let that travesty continue, like, that terrible, like, Stockholm abuse that was happening? Would you have actually let that continue if it meant you got Jess back? I don't know. I want to believe Murphy still would have done the right thing in the end and would have, like, told the moment, like, her and Jess made it to Canada, or if she made it to Canada, whatever the fact may be, but she's kind of accepted her fate and turned herself in. Luckily, Sarah and them do find Jennifer, and they're able to save her, even later on saying, like, yeah, she's kind of messed up. And they talk about it with Jean. She talks about it with Jean, where it's like, you know, so where do things kind of go from here? And it's like, you can date whoever you want to, just don't let it interfere with your job again. So they're good. But the look on Gene's face made me think, like, oh, like, he was kind of, like, he did like her, and he was hoping, I don't know whether in his mind it's like, right, this is me backpedaling a little bit. It's like, I'm letting it slide. She is a good cop at heart, so that's all that matters. But at the same time, I am curious. I was actually surprised, because I was like, what is Sarah going to do? Like, I thought she was getting, like, blacklisted, like, cop-wise. Like, she was going to get screwed over, especially the IA investigating. But I guess, like, Gene's kind of waving that away. But I think maybe that's also the feeling of it too. Like I said, maybe he's worried that, like, oh, this is a slippery slope. It just takes one time, like, letting stuff like this pass with Sarah, but she made up for it in the end, so it's fine. But you're still sweeping it under the rug to some extent. But I also felt like it's also because, on some extent, he liked Sarah. Like, I thought they were going to be like the thing, not like I didn't see the Darnell and Sarah thing happening or coming. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot you could take from Gene's expression, and, like, that could be, like I said, applied in any aspect in that regard. But aside from all of that, though, you have Gene and Josh overseeing Murphy, and they're just kind of like, yeah, you're not going to get away this time. We're going to make sure we keep our eyes on you. And she's like, that's fair. Like, Murphy's, like, completely submitted. She's not going to fight. She's not. It's like, oh, she, like, saving Jess was like the last, and I guess in her mind too, it's like she gives some closure, like, yeah, I was able to save Jess by making sure she's able to live a life without me. I don't want to like corrupt her life anymore. So she's just kind of accepted, like, right, I'm the, like, because she's at this moment, I'm sure she's running through her head of like, everything's my fault. So it's like, right, I'm getting what I deserve. And if it means I take the fall for the knee, I think it's fine, as long as it means protecting, you know, one of my best friends, you know? And so ultimately, you know, Josh is there standing alone with her, and he was just like, do you have anything to say with you? And she's like, nope. And he was like, really, like, after all that you've done? And she's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, sorry, that's it? She's like, yep. And he's like, you know, you should know better than anyone. Like, you know, you used my disability against me. I trusted you. And she's like, mm-hmm. And he's like, there's a special place in hell for people like you. And Murphy's like, okay, thank you. I was like, that's actually a heartbreaking thing that she just sits there and take it, because it's been blow after blow, and it continues to be blow after blow. But it is a thing of like, right, this is what I deserve. Like, it's not just like Jess. It's like, I think even then she's like, yeah, I ruined your life too. And she legitimately was kind of like, I'm sorry. That's also why I like that Jess thing of like, I'm sorry. Like, I think it's not till later on I felt a little more of that genuine sorriness, but like her initial, I'm sorry. I wish, it's like, and when Murphy kind of kicked you in the chest, I was kind of like, it kind of deserves that. But it's like, yeah, like, I just felt like those sorries weren't too genuine, because she was just too busy trying to get away from Murphy. But, and she's also like, she can't take Pretzel with her. So it's like, right, just take him to my mom. I was almost wondering if she'd be like, do you take Pretzel? He's good. You'll need him for your circumstances. If your eyesight keeps getting worse, because you will eventually go blind. So it's like, you know, take him. He's a good doll. But then it's like, I'm sure Murphy didn't want to do that, because it's like, right, it just would have been a constant reminder. I don't know whether she was thinking about it, but for the show perspective, it's like Josh would never accept Pretzel just because it'd be a constant reminder of Murphy. But looking at his expression, I was like, it doesn't look like Josh got the saddest. He didn't feel the way he thought it would. He even says so as much. He's like, yeah, like, you know, and then Gene says the line, which is actually the title of the episode, expectations are the root of heartache, or something, all heartache. Because it's like, in his mind, Josh thought like taking her down would make him feel good, but it's like, it's not what he expected it to feel like. And then at the end of the day, even Gene's like, maybe you don't hate her as much as you thought you did. Like, yeah, she's done some things, but even he recognizes, like, I think he kind of sympathizes in certain regards of like, yeah, she did some messed up stuff, but it's also like, you know, she is someone I did care more for at one point in time, and she was trying to do the right thing in certain regards. So, yeah, she did bad stuff in others, but at the heart of it, she did try to justify, like, she was in a bad, complicated place. But obviously, Gene's like, you've got the entirety of this trial, because this is going to be a very, very long trial to, like, sort out your feelings. So I think that would be an interesting thing to note, like, obviously with the ending being what it is, but it's like, it would be interesting to find out, like, that the entire next season was kind of dedicated to Murphy's trial, like a good chunk of that. Like, I'd be so curious to see how that plays out. But yeah, like, it's like, yeah, you'll have time to kind of sort out your feelings. Then even inviting him over, it's like, yeah, you can come around my family, considering your family's so far away. But Murphy in jail, lo and behold, gets a visit from Max, you know? And obviously he confirms, like, yeah, I do love you, but maybe a little too much. Like, what we have is kind of, you know, once again, she's like, right, I just, the gifts just keep on giving, because it's like, had this hard conversation with Jess, and now she's having it with Max. It's like, yeah, I love you. You know, we both know I do, and I will always love you. But the fact is, I want something stable. I've never had that my entire life, and, you know... And Murphy's like, but obviously it can't be with me. That's pretty obvious. So it's a thing of like, you know, she recognizes, like, right, she, just like Jess, is like, I do want you to be happy too, Max. You deserve something stable, you know. And so they kind of say their goodbye. So I guess there is no more of them going forward. Like, I don't know if Max is going to come visit her, or whether he feels it's better to stay away. Leslie knows that he's there, so I think that's kind of like letting a lot of her insecurities slide about this whole thing. But it is him kind of putting the kibosh on them once and for all. But it's like, right, there's someone else here to see you, and it's Felix. And it's like, yeah, I talked to Jess, and it's like, don't worry, Murphy, I'm not going to leave you like she did. But she's like, no, you need to. And now the thing is, like, is Felix just, because the thing is, they're the perfect storm of like someone who relies on someone to be their yes person and a comforter. Like Felix has already played that role to some extent anyway, but also like he's going to be filling that role, but he's also that type of person that wants any validation from anyone. So you're like, it might be the perfect storm of toxicity, of just kind of like what's broken in each other, like they're filling that void for each other. Like maybe hopefully this lesson, the situation with Jess will make her, I think she will start treating, like, obviously, like, her and Felix are joking at the end, and she's like, yeah, he's like, don't ever say that you ruined my life. On the opposite, because I think despite the ups and downs, like, I do think Felix became a very different person, and probably, like, I think he likes who he is now because of, like, Murphy's influence. Have I become a quote-unquote better person? No, but I'm a very different person than I would have ever been if it wasn't for you. So don't ever say you ruined my life. She's like, right, you didn't have much of a life for me to ruin. It's like, ouch, but it's like them joking like that, and I thought it was nice, because for him, he's like, yeah, put all that weirdness aside. At the end of the day, you are my best friend, and she's like, you're mine too. And I'm like, I like that they have come, like, once again, it's like, you kind of worry because you're like, is he simply just going to be a substitute, or is Murphy growing and just recognizing Felix is like, right, I've just never realized, like, all that you do for me, and you're not here just to be my Jess replacement, because he's like, I'm going to do everything I can to get you out of here, so, so, I don't know if there ever will be like will they, like, I think, like, he's putting a kibosh on that, just like she potentially is. It's like, no, we're just be best friends. That's what we've been, and that's what we're going to be, so, but I thought that was kind of a nice uplifting aspect at the very end there. So, because the whole gun situation did get resolved, there's still the cartel thing at play, but that's mainly because they're after Josiah. I don't know if that's ever going to circle back to Murphy and them, and if that gun thing will ever come up with, like, it's nothing they can do against Leslie, because it's like, yeah, she might have sold it and it got in the hands of someone through the black market. They can't really, like, tie her to all that going down. But, at the end of it, though, we just see them, Felix and Murphy talking, and we see Jess, like, on her phone, happy, and it's just kind of like, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm glad for you, but there's also, like, once again, I feel so bad for the actress who plays Jess, because, like, once again, it's like, you always have, I'm able to separate between character and actor. I'm like, I might be a little mixed on the character of Jess. Like, it's just like, yes, she deserves her happiness. She deserves to be able to just kind of walk away from all of this. And that makes me wonder, like, would we see any more Jess in the future? Or would she be like, would that actress be exiting the show because, like, Jess wants nothing to do with this? Or will she still be in the mix? Will she be in the fold? Like, some of the people that would come up at Murphy's trial, like, will we see Max? I'm assuming we see Leslie, because maybe Felix will try and get Leslie to be her lawyer, so Max would still be kind of involved in some extent. I don't know. I just don't know. Felix is definitely going to be all in. Maybe Darnell could be there. Like, maybe they're character witnesses. That says a lot. I mean, we're talking about the trial. We've got our stinger at the end with Sam paying her way to get into Murphy's, cell. And, like, she made it pretty clear, like, oh, I'm going to kill Murphy. And it's like, that's what's going to happen. Like, because that's why Felix was like, are you okay? Is it safe? It's like, yeah, of course, Sam has our connection, so it's going to be a bumpy road for Murphy. I don't think Sam's going to kill her, but I'm like, what this means for season 4, like I said, like, I think the main crux of it will just be Murphy's trial and how that's all going to play out. Because I was legitimately wondering, like, where do you go from here? Because, like, they would have to basically spend the rest of their lives on a run, and Josh and Jean weren't about to give her, especially Josh, weren't about to, like, kind of let her go. So, I'm really fascinated to see. That's all I can see season 4 necessarily being, like, at least that being the big focus, but you never know how these stories are going to spiral out and what's going to be next, like... it's definitely going to be... I'm curious to see, like, who are they going to make, like, character witness, because I'm sure a lot of stuff is going to go into, like, Murphy's circumstances of, like, how she ended up here, her trying to solve Ty's murder, exposing dirty cop like Dean, and also, like, the chief, Keith, exposing him, also... Nia, because there's also the thing of, like, right, like, the person she's accused of murdering is Nia, a drug person, and the whole conversation about, because also, like, Felix brought it up, it's like, she isn't the one that pulled the trigger, but then it becomes because they don't have any proof that anyone else was there. Sam could be the, like, linchpin to screw things up, because Murphy's still believed to be the only one there, because they don't know Jess showed up and shot, so, like, everything's on Murphy now, So, but Sam knows the truth, so just to hurt Murphy more, it's like, oh, I could get Jess, I could screw everything up. Like, it's not, oh, I could get my revenge by getting Jess in here, killing her, and killing you. Like, you know, so that might be potentially, like, something that gets planned out next season. Maybe Sam changes her mind. Like I said, Murphy's not the one who actually pulled the trigger, but you're still at the center of this all happening, especially because you're going through so much to protect, you know, Jess, your best friend. So it's like, I'm going to ruin all of that. I'm going to ruin this happen. Like, she doesn't get to have a happily ever after, even though you sent her off to have one. So that's why I'm like, Jess's story could, like, branch out and she could be, like, absent from most of next season, like she kind of was this, or it could be a situation of, nah, she's still just as much majorly a part of it. Maybe we won't see a lot of her, maybe we'll see a little bit of her, or maybe she'll still be in the crux of all of this because of Murphy's, I don't know, like, she needs her separation from Murphy and not trying to be that person for her anymore, so she could just be, like, not going anywhere near that trial and trying to be happy. So I don't know. There's a lot of ways that this could ultimately play out, but some of the evidence in court might come up about her not actually pulling the trigger, but it's like, I'm curious what Josh is going to feel like during the trial and what's that going to do. Like, there's just so many questions. There's, like I said, that's the crux of it I can see, but there, you know, there's going to be other threads, and I'm curious, like, where all that's going to take us. It'd be kind of interesting if, like, you get some character witnesses, like Michael, for example, and stuff like that. I mean, Trey's still on the run for, like, that triple homicide, but like I said, there's still that cartel angle, like, what that'll turn into, if it'll turn into anything, considering they're after Josiah, but because they're connected, maybe they'll kind of get caught up in the whirlwind of that. Like I said, if Leslie ends up being Murphy's lawyer, might get someone else, but, you know, we'll see. I'm excited to see what season 4 looks like. At the time of me recording this, I don't think there's, like, from the little bit I googled, like, CW hasn't given an official time, because a lot of stuff that's wrapped up is already, like, production wise, like, had already started well in advance. So, like, a lot of stuff is coming back super early, like, fall this season. So, like, it'll probably, I personally would assume it probably won't be until, like, spring of 2022 or something like that we get this, or maybe summer again that we get in the dark again. But, you know, we'll have to ultimately wait and see. But I'm excited to see where the next season takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.